This is the Oddball Show, a podcasting collaboration with JP Line Productions and Oddball Magazine.
Good evening, all you uppers and downers, maggots and snowflakes. This is indeed the Oddball Show, brought to you tonight in part by Mosaic Hops and the letter O. My name is Prof. I represent the Boston Hip Hop Power Vacuum. Am I using that correctly? Known as JP Line Productions, and I'll play the dramaturge for this 1 hour's traffic of our airwaves. With me tonight and always, he's the Caucasian East Coast poet version of Yeezus and the lifeblood of this podcasting oddness. Founder and editor-in-chief of Oddball Magazine, where he will gladly take your submissions and your fruitcake recipes for this holiday season. Please say hello to Mr. Jason Wright.
Wow, Prof. Every time it gets better and better and better and better.
Hey, I'm just here to make you shine. That's what I do.
You make me shine.
How are you, buddy?
Wax, dude. I'm great. I'm very good. How are you?
Good. Feeling good on a Monday?
Yeah, I mean, Monday is a good day, you know?
I was almost going to trip you up. I was going to say, feeling good on this Tuesday? And then,
if we were filming on Wednesday, like, feeling good on this Wednesday? Yeah. Feeling good on this Thursday? Feeling good?
Yeah. And I would certainly hope that each day you would be like, yes, I feel good. I feel better than I did the day
decent.
Before.
I feel like I can get through the day.
I suppose that's also important.
So, who is on our program today?
Let's get into that. Our guest tonight is a poet and author with the soul of a punk rocker, whose book Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse is available now at Amazon and paperback and Kindle versions. You can also find it on many online locations, including Boston Poetry Magazine and our own Oddball Magazine. Here to help us explore the hidden murky corners and what may rise out of frozen language on this December night, please give a warm Oddball Show welcome to Jake Tringali.
Hello there, cheers. Hi, everybody.
Hello, sir. Sorry to trip over your last name.
That's just fine. Tringali, right there. Tringali.
Tringali. We got it.
Exactly.
Okay, then. Prof, you there?
Yes, I certainly am.
Fantastic. Okay. So, Jake, how you been? Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking your time on this Monday night to join us.
Absolutely. I'm usually running a restaurant, so I'm working most evenings, but I have this Monday off, so I'm here celebrating with you, having a little bit of red wine.
That is fantastic. That's wonderful. So I've known Jake for a little while now through Oddball Magazine, and you recently just put out a brand new book that I was able to read before publishing, or I was one of the lucky people to put a blurb on it, and fantastic book, Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse. We can get that on Amazon, right?
That's correct. And at this point, I should thank you and Oddball Magazine. I was looking through a history of the poems that I'd written over the past 4 or 5 years or so, and Oddball Magazine was the very first venue to publish any one of my poems. And and that was in 2014.
Yeah.
The past 4 years, I've had over 70 other poems published here and there.
Jesus.
Oddball.
How many have you had published with us?
4 or 5 of them, I believe.
All right, so 65 went to other places.
That's correct. Yeah.
I thought you were going to be like jealous about it. There's 65 I could have had.
I did not have the lion's share of the poetry that went to.
I can give you the numbers for the other editors. You can get into a slap fight, whatever you want to do.
Can I have those editors so I can send my poetry around? Jeez, the only place I've been published is Oddball Magazine.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's working out.
Actually, before we jump right into the book, where are some of those other places that you've been published, Jake? Because I know that there are some very active and eager places in Boston, both live, especially, which we've talked about on the podcast quite a great amount with Stone Soup and other places. But then online, Oddball is one of the places we hype a lot, but we're also very interested in pushing anything going on in the poetry scene.
Oh, that is definitely true. I definitely want to know what's going on with the poetry scene.
Yeah, certainly. And the ones that I think you would enjoy probably the most there's a place that's published me recently called thebeesaredead.com. They publish dystopian photographs and poetry.
Nice.
thebeesaredead.com.
Nice.
And we'll put up links for all these later.
Yeah, please do.
As well as Euphony Journal out of Chicago. Really enjoys the work I've been doing. Masspoetry.org is always a good resource for publishing poetry.
Definitely.
Those are some of the ones.
So there's some interesting cover art on the Neon Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse. Who did your cover art?
That work was done by my friend Jess Riscala. Jess is an artist here in Boston. I met her through one of the restaurants I was working at. She was a weirdo like me, and she was working at the host stand. I was managing the place. And from time to time, we would do ridiculous things like greet all the guests in a Hungarian accent while wearing vampire teeth.
Nice.
It was all so you could get away with that stuff. So we would go on our own Jess and Jake adventures from time to time up to Salem, here around in Boston. And when it came time to create the book and put it all together, I looked around to some of the artist friends that I had and to see what would make sense with this style of book. And Jess's artwork particular, I went through her portfolio. I was like, yes, that photo right there, that painting that you did, I would very much like to use that. And she was on board.
That's awesome.
Is the quote that's on the back, is that hers too, or is that yours?
It's actually by a musician that's out in Los Angeles.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, he does dance music, basically, pop music.
Nice.
I've forgotten his name right now. And I remember reaching out to him through Twitter and saying, hey, do you mind if we use this? And he was just like, ha, ha, ha. And so I took that as a yes.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. If they don't say no, it's definitely a yes.
Yes.
In online, that is good as gold. That is a sacred handshake right there. Hey, Jake, you were just talking about being in Salem, and one of the poems that I read was Inside a Salem Parlor. Do you want to talk a little about that? Maybe even share it?
Yeah, certainly. Inside a Salem Parlor was a poem that was inspired by my friend Britt Whitman. Britt was a server and bartender at one of the restaurants I worked at, and she enjoyed, as well as some of the other servers, doing artistic pursuits, doing drawings. And she enjoyed it so much that eventually she moved down to Atlanta, where she worked with with ink artists, with tattoo artists, to kind of work on her skills and get her up through the mentoring system, apprentice system. And now she works up in Salem doing tattoo art. So it's fantastic. So I thought of her, it is a hyper-realistic version of what she would think when she saw a tourist coming through. Britt has zero fucks to offer. She doesn't care about what you think. She is herself. And so I wrote this poem thinking about someone that works up in Salem and has all of these tourists, so many tourists, 99% tourists coming through and not really caring about the craft, not caring about the people, just kind of there for their selfies.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Massachusetts Poetry Festival up in Salem? It's always a pretty good time.
I have not. I missed it this past year, and it's in April. Is that correct?
It's in April. Yeah. I had here's a little story. So when Chad and I, Chad is my associate editor, Chad Parento. When we first started Oddball, Chad was amazing and got us a speaking engagement at the Mass Poetry Festival, which was awesome. Unfortunately, I was late for it because I decided to drive up to Salem on that day, and I was stuck in so much traffic instead of taking the train, which everyone else did.
Yes.
So we were talking. They were talking all the way through the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was like 5 minutes left, and they were talking, and I just busted in, and I'm like, "Sorry, I'm late. I'm the editor of Oddball magazine." And I was like, "Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here, and sorry for my tardiness." And that was one of my big. But the thing is, I was like, I had one of the poets that was going to go up with me. Like we were in Somerville, we were trying to get up there. He's like, "Well, let's not take the train. Let's just drive the car up." And it was just like it was weird. I like busted into the doors, very like made an entrance, didn't even mean to, and then I just got up on stage and but the Massachusetts Poetry Festival has been great. There's been a lot of good. There's always like all the new poetry books that are all these underground Boston poetry, which I love, and seeing all these wonderful poets who've been a part of this Boston history of poetry has been amazing, and to be a little bit a part of that, even like
Right.
kudos to Chad for getting us into this, Oh, and then there was another one that I did, Poets with Disabilities, where that was set up by Colin Killick, which is pretty cool. And me and a couple other poets read, poetry and stuff. So, the Massachusetts Poetry Festival is great. And Salem actually has a pretty good poetry scene too. So you were talking about Inside of Salem Parlor. I think now would be a good time maybe to take a step back and read it, and maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah, certainly. Give me just a few moments to find that for you.
Sure, no problem.
While we do, let's talk about the Oddball Show. You can find it right now, wherever you might be listening to it. You can find it on through the magic of internet, YouTube, and then through the power of internet on our respective websites, which are jplineproductions.com and oddballmagazine.com. It's also running right now on our Twitter feed, and it'll be up on our Facebook feed as well. So thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And be sure to check out all the links that we put up on the website to find more about Jake's work.
And definitely, if you get a chance, leave a review of our show on iTunes. Every review of iTunes gets us more and more people who will listen to our show, and I think we always have interesting people with interesting stories on the Oddball Show, and we really would appreciate a review. So go to your iTunes and leave a review, 5 stars or whatever,
or even 6. Go to 6.
I was gonna say 6 too, but I was like,
these ones go to 11.
Yeah, turn the volume up to 11, and
I just make one with 10 but louder.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never seen Spinal Tap. Someone was telling me about it. Have you ever seen Spinal Tap? Because that's where that comes from.
Yes, that is where that
kidding me right now?
Huh?
We'll stop this podcast right now.
I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
Well,
you turn the volume up to 11. So
yes, that's true. I was indeed quoting Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap's playing in New York City sometime next year.
I've heard that. Isn't it funny that the Spinal Tap guys became the Mighty Wind guys? That's just aging, I mean, it's like, wow.
So, babe, became what?
For guest once.
Well, so it was like Spinal Tap was a rock and roll band, and then they ended up doing the Mighty Wind like 40 years later, which is like a folk, chill, funny folk songs and stuff. All the people who do the Spinal Tap and Mighty Wind and stuff, they're all pretty much like the same people. I know what's his name from The Simpsons is part of it, who's pretty funny. I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, so turn up to 11 is actually from the Spinal Tap, in case you are wondering.
Well, we were all wondering. Thank you very much, Jason. We appreciate it.
Well,
we'll put a link to Spinal Tap in our in the pertinent links section.
If you have pop culture references that you need explained, just call me.
Please tweet us at Oddball Magazine and at Dr. Prof Esquire. We appreciate that.
Jake, did you find your poem yet?
I did, absolutely.
Hey,
This is a quick 1 minute poem or so. This is called Inside a Salem Parlor. It's from the... I haven't actually read this out loud, so this will be interesting for all of us, I think.
Yes, all right, awesome. So Jake is about to read his poem, Inside a Salem Parlor.
You will not fuck with the goddess. Goddamn hoodie-wearing child and her friends. My red runes of Slaughterhouse spill all over your broken rabbit's foot. No, you can't get a neck tattoo, princess. And there is no such thing as the modern vampire. Precious, just shop and applaud yourself in my parlor. Buy that bundle of wildwood sage to bring home and burn next to your picket fence, skyscraper condo, Euro cottage, sub-zero fridge, whatever. I've got work to do. My practiced skills linger, occult and otherwise. You continue to cackle as your manicure dare to touch my grimoire, my folio, the scented candles that we really made in that summer backyard as the ladies laughed darkly. Tell your cheering nuggets to sit the fuck down. Follow your mama's tramp stamp and exit. Take your mall dye hair kit back on the bus, fucking tourist. Light up that Clove City. Whatever. I've got work to do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bam.
Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse.
Yep.
His new book is Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse. You can find it on Amazon, paperback and Kindle versions. Jake, why is the apocalypse neon?
Oh, good question.
Why is the apocalypse neon? That is a fantastic question. The apocalypse is neon because I am an urban boy. I'm a city boy. And as I was coming up with, I was looking over the portfolio of work that I had done over the past 4 or 5 years or so. And I noticed that a lot of the work dealt with death, mass death, death of civilizations. And also a lot of it was based in cities. And so to get that word out there, I figured neon. Neon made sense to, when you think of neon, I think of downtown Los Angeles, where there's a neon museum, actually.
Oh, well.
You can go and see all these wonderful neon artworks from a long time ago. Neon, all of those signs, those neon signs, they're meant to live forever, basically. There's some of them that are 100 years old and are still going strong. So that's why the apocalypse is neon.
I love the word neon. We try to work it into my new band name, and I think it's like a great image, like you were saying, of attaching like to a downtown or a city. Like that's where neon lives. So that's cool. Can you tell us a little more specifically about some of your poems? What, how that apocalypse is viewed and or I don't know what I was going to say. Journeyed through, dealt with.
Yeah, certainly. Like I said, once again, as I was looking over my, someone asked me the question, what was it that I learned in making the book? And I was fascinated by the fact that I had learned some of my fascinations. Like I didn't realize that I was fascinated by the apocalypse. I didn't realize it at all until I started looking over my work. It was just like, okay, in my early works, I killed a small woodland creature, and then later on I killed a human being, and then later on I killed a city, and then I killed a universe or two, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And it wasn't by any specific theme in my head as I was writing these things. It was simply I was going from from my point of view, a random topic to a random topic, just kind of filling out my artistic purpose, whatever that might be. And now that I can look back at it in hindsight, that's kind of how it all came about. And I asked myself, why? Why is this all happening? I have not really been around too much death. I've never been in a war. I've never had anyone die tragically around me. All of the deaths that have been around me, thankfully, have been, forewarned and something that happens in life. So why is it that's happening? I think that over the past couple of years, I've been coming to terms with what death is. I've been learning to shake hands with death. And this book is for death, maybe. I hope that she enjoys it. Yeah, that's kind of my thought. I think that if the universe is going to end tomorrow, the next day, whatever, then we should revel. We should really do the best that we can with what we have right now and not wait till tomorrow. And that's how I've been living my life for the past 8 years or so.
Right on.
Nice. I like that. With the threat of the apocalypse looming over our head, just live it on,
I can remember a time when I was of a younger age in the 80s under Reagan or so, and we really thought, hey, maybe this nuclear thing is actually going to happen to us.
Yep.
And we were kind of prepared for it. And that movie, The Day After, came out, and we all watched it as part of a school project. And man, that scared the shit out of me. That is one of the most scary movies you'll ever watch, and you can watch it today. It's a little slow, but it's still a very scary concept to see what nuclear holocaust would actually be like. And so that kind of stayed with me over time.
Are you fascinated by? Well, I guess I was going to ask. Are you fascinated by other apocalyptic things? But you said that you just realized that you weren't. You just realized your fascination with the apocalypse, and look in hindsight, not really like. Fallout doesn't. You're not playing Fallout. You're not exploring the other artistic expressions of the apocalypse. It's not really your thing. You said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on a small kind of scale, yes, I like goth kind of things. I wear a lot of black. I live near a cemetery. Like, if I could throw a stone right now, I would hit a grave. And I live with a couple of people that also enjoy a goth life. So we have a little creaky old house, creaky old goth house next to a cemetery. But that's kind of a casual kind of lifestyle kind of thing, a kind of Halloween all of the year round. But really, it's not. It is not in any sense the actual thinking about actual death.
So, would you say that the lifestyle that you live really shows through in your poetry? More, I know we're talking about the neon apocalypse, but what makes you, Jake? Why is your avenue poetry, and is it your lifestyle? Is it something you live, breathe? What is, what fuels this willingness and want to write all the time?
Yes. Well, you write what you know. I'm not the first person to say that, and I happen to live mainly in the evenings, mainly after midnight is when I go out on adventures. And I go to punk rock shows. I go to burlesque shows. I like doing the types of things. I'm not a white picket fence kind of guy. Also, I live in New England, and New England poets throughout history have been known to write a lot about trees and streams and mountains and what have you. And nature doesn't really appeal to me. So as I've been learning more about poetry here in New England, and I've been gathering all these resources, they turned me off. A lot of them turned me off. And so I was like, well, there's a lot of words in the dictionary. We can use some other words. we don't have to, when I look through some of the anthologies throughout the entire United States for, best of poems and things like that, usually a third of them, maybe a quarter or a third, mention a type of tree. I don't know why that is. I really don't. I think people are just perpetuating something that they read. And yes, those can be beautiful poems. I get it, but we can write about other things too.
There's also a whole lot of people walking around and doing a whole lot of stuff, in between all that nature that makes for interesting content as well. I think it was in one of your interviews that you said, if I have to read another Robert Frost, poem ever, I'll kill myself.
Yes. I'd be glad to kill myself if I read another poem about a tree or a stream.
I think it's also interesting too because it's kind of like something that defines New England poets. Not necessarily modern New England poets, but like anthologies and classic New England poets are always like, cold and snow and trees and
there are journals that just do prairie poetry or Midwestern poetry. And so all they want to know about is what prairie life is like. And I'm fascinated by them. I really am, but I couldn't write them.
Yeah.
Have you ever had one of your poems published in a prairie poetry journal?
No, but there was one time when I was trying to get published in a Western style magazine, and they write specifically about cowboy life. And I know nothing about cowboy life. So I wrote a poem, and it's in this book. I wrote a poem in this book, and it's about it is about a cowboy in space, basically, like the Pantera song.
Yeah.
It's a cowboy in space who is out furthest. He is furthest away from the Earth. Like when we go into outer space and we start herding asteroids for mining or what have you, there's going to be one person that is going to be out furthest from space, furthest from Earth, furthest from our homeland. And I wrote a little poem about him. And
that's awesome. I love that idea.
It still has not been published, but it's out there.
Did they write you back and they were like, I don't think you understand what our magazine is. I like your poem, but I think you're missing the point here. No, I think that's an awesome concept though, because there definitely will be somebody that is the furthest space cowboy.
Yeah, I would love to hear that poem. So if you can find it, I'd love to hear that poem. Who are some of your poetry? I can tell you some of my poetry influences are also musicians. Henry Rollins is a poet that I really enjoy.
Yes.
And so is Leonard Cohen. Those are two of my favorite poets. I also I don't know if it's the musicality of the two, but I like Henry Rollins because of how much he is angry. I love his anger. I love how his view. And I think Leonard Cohen is just really a beautiful poet. So I know you're big into punk music. What are some other poets or musicians that really speak to you?
Certainly. And Leonard Cohen, absolutely amazing. I remember reading his book when he was up he was in a monastery in and around Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
He wrote that book. That's fantastic. Henry Rollins. I've had friends meet Henry Rollins. I've seen him perform his spoken word stories here in Boston. He's amazing.
Yes.
I've had a friend that said that she loved Henry Rollins so much that she would at some point like tear off his skin and wear it as a uniform just so she could go around being Henry Rollins.
So my tattoo
that's great.
Is a Roman numeral 3 because of the Oddball. But I definitely I didn't put it up. I'm not like as hardcore as Henry Rollins that I put it like right where he put his black flag tattoo, but I put it a little bit down under my shirt.
Interesting.
But I did it because I really admire I love that Henry Rollins' work so much.
So I'll answer your question, but two more quick Henry Rollins things.
Oh, sure.
One is Henry Rollins is on this season of Portlandia, and you should watch it because he plays an old, aging rocker, and it's very funny. And he does perform. He performs on it.
Oh, really?
And then secondly, one of the things I love about Henry Rollins is that he doesn't perform today, and he never went out and played the old songs. Every time he went on tour, he would never play the old songs because those were done.
Yeah.
Those were done. People know them. That's fine. You move on. It's like the comedians these days. Comedians don't go out and just keep repeating the same jokes like Henny Youngman used to do. Now they have to have a whole new set of jokes, a whole new performance every year, pretty much, because of the internet, and everyone's going to hear everything. All right, so that's my Henry Rollins thing.
Hold on, back up. Do you think that have you ever seen Henry Rollins or no?
I have.
Yes, not in a musical sense, but he performed here at the Wilbur telling some of his stories.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty awesome thing to stick to as a musician, though. That and it's got to lead to some kind of difficulty with ticket sales. That if you're not going to play old hits, I like it very much as an artist, but that's gonna be tough. Like
that's part of the punk aesthetic,
I like it.
Some bands that go out there and they won't charge more than $10 a ticket, and that's just they want everyone to come to the show. People,
right on.
Integrity here and there, and that's pretty cool.
So I have a history of offending people who are famous. I can go through a brief history, but let's talk about Henry Rollins. So I don't think I offended Henry Rollins, but when the Descendants album Cool to Be You came out after many years of no Descendants albums, I went and saw Henry Rollins, and afterwards I was like, "Hey Henry, did you get the new Descendants album yet?" He said, "Oh no, I haven't got it yet." And I said, "Oh, do you not like the Descendants?" And he stopped signing autographs and he looked right at me and he said, "Just because I didn't get the Descendants album doesn't mean I don't like the Descendants." I was like, "Oh shit." So that was the first time I offended Henry Rollins. The second time I offended Henry Rollins, I was in Providence, and someone was like wanting him to sign his skin. I was like, "What? Why is I want him to sign his skin. And I was kind of talking about, yeah, go ahead, sign his skin. That's great. Whatever. I might have had a few beers. But anyway, Henry said, you know what? I will talk to you next because you're being pretty annoying. I don't.
Oh my God, Jason, that might be one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, I don't think he met me the first time with the Descendants, but the second time, So I haven't seen him in a while.
Do you miss him?
I do. I miss Henry. Hank. I call him Hank. Me and him are close.
Yeah, no, Hank. So to answer your original question about some of the musical influences that I had.
Thank you, Jake. We appreciate that. Us and the listeners.
Bringing this roller coaster back on track.
I'll bring you back. Yes, musicians specifically. Yeah, sure. David Bowie, absolutely. Any of the Riot Girls, Amy Mann. We're talking Regina Spektor. We're talking Fiona Apple. Beautiful, beautiful lyrics. I absolutely listen to them over and over. They've definitely influenced me. From a specifically poetry point of view, Sharon Olds.
Sharon Olds. Yeah, she won the. She was a Boston Poet Laureate or something, right? She was on NPR for something.
I think she won a Pulitzer.
Pulitzer, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. She won a Pulitzer. I don't know if it was for Satan Says, but that's a specific book that I like specifically. Very elegant, dark, personal. More contemporary, Kevin Proofer, who works out of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing a book tour lately for How He Loved Them, a book called How He Loved Them. Once again, I like him because he mixes beauty and violence. And he talks about America in a way that's very contemporary to me, and I enjoy it a lot.
Very cool.
And then recently, I'm also a member of the Science Fiction Poetry Association.
Nice.
Because I noticed that a lot. Looking back at my poems, a lot of them take place in a science-y type of theme, and that's from my background in computer science and from my background in reading a lot of science fiction books. So there's been a couple of books that came out lately. There's a book called Satan's Sweethearts, and it is a poetry book about female serial killers by Margie and Mary Truzillo. Very, very, it is well researched and well written.
So what about actual female serial killers, or just they are the character? Oh, that's cool.
Lizzie Borden, and a couple other people are in there. Yeah.
There was this story I remember listening to about this woman who used to. She was called the Black Widow. Is she in the book?
I'd have to look it up again.
So her thing was she would marry someone, and then, like, say the guy was taking a shower or something, she would throw an alarm clock or something in his shower and electrocute him, and it happened many times.
And no one thought to ask the question.
Maybe they did, but then they got electrocuted. You know, what time is it? Hold on, I'll get that for you.
Officer, step over here into the shower.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You know what?
Let me ask you this real quick, Jake, before we jump off science fiction. Who are some of your other favorite science fiction, either writers or poets, as far as influences in science fiction genre?
When I was 16 or 17 years old, I got a job as a security guard here in Boston, and it was at the Harvard School of Public Health. So that means I can say I was a security guard at Harvard Yard. But the point of the story is that I worked the graveyard shift. I worked from midnight to 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I would meet my friends at the beach the next day. And before I went to work every day, I would go to the library. I went to Malden Public Library, just north here of Boston.
Yep.
And I worked my way through that stack. There were 2 stacks there of science fiction books, Asimov through Zelazny. And Asimov was a very big influence on me. The cyberpunk writers of the late 80s were a big, big influence on me. Right. William Gibson, Rudy Rucker, Bruce Sterling, all these people fed my brain. And even though I didn't really start writing until 20 or 30 years later, those ideas bounced around in my head. I can see them. I can feel them. And so they're still there.
Very cool. Very cool. If you're just tuning into the program, we're talking to Jake Tringali, and his talking about his new book, Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse. We've covered a lot of stuff so far, and we still have more to go. So we're going to take a brief check in with Prof and Jason, and we'll be right back.
Good plan, man. It's good spot for that. And let's. Do you want to start with Oddball Magazine before we jump into our thrilling personal lives?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So Oddball Magazine is oddballmagazine.com. We are poetry, art, and entertainment for the masses. This week we have many of our columnists, our comic strips, our friend Bruce Wise and his poetry column, Wise Words. Today, we published The Secrets of Skinny People by Jeffrey Fallon, and as I mentioned, that comic strip by The Odds. Last week, on Wednesday, we had art from Dr. Regina Veluzzi, who has been with me since day one of Oddball. She has been sending awesome art over, and I got to give her a major shout out. She's one
of your day ones, man.
She's one of my day ones, yeah, and that's awesome. She has been a contributor. She's one of so if you've been in the show, if you've been on the magazine enough times, you're an artist, you become an Oddball artist, and she's definitely one of our Oddball artists. You can click on the Oddball artist to see every single thing she's ever done. So,
what year was day one?
Since day one, yeah, really.
No,
yeah.
What year was day one?
2009.
Okay.
Yeah, 2009. I mean, before Oddball Magazine started going strong in 2012, it was a blog that I was asked to. Well, so I talk a lot, and at a restaurant.
Do you? Can you tell us about Fiddler on the Roof?
Yes. I can't.
we really should circle back to that. That's important.
That's something that we should. Kenny Rogers. I mean, who doesn't know that? All right. Anyway, so I was working at a Bertucci's, and this woman said, I really think you should start a blog, and please let me eat my soup.
Please let me.
You know what? I will let you eat your soup, and I think I will start a blog. And I did.
That was good.
Yeah, so I started oddballmagazine.com. First it was oddballmagazine.com, it was a WordPress site. And then I met Chad Parento a couple of years later, and I was like, Chad, let's take this to the next level, and we did. And it's been amazing for the last. It's been an amazing partnership for the last couple of years. But yeah, like when I first started getting submissions, Dr. Regina Veluzzi was one of the first people that ever submitted to us, and we're so thankful. So yeah. So and then on Wednesday we had photography by Jennifer Matthews and a poem by Ricky Garney. And we also had flash fiction by Susan Tepper, who's been in the magazine a couple times, with photography by Chad. So you got to check that out. And then my Jagged Thought that we'll be reading at the end of the day. It was influenced by falling asleep listening to Bad Brains. I fell asleep listening to Bad Brains, which was very hardcore, and then I woke up and it was very dub. And I was like, I got to write about this because it was hardcore. And then I fell asleep and I woke up and it was like the really B-sides of Bad Brains, where it was just like dub instrumentals and stuff. And I was like, this is interesting. Yeah. So Oddball
sounds like a very full week at Oddball.
Yeah, Oddball Magazine. If you're looking to submit and you're listening to the Oddball Show, follow us. Check out our submission guidelines. You can email me at oddballmagazine@gmail.com for quicker submissions, or you can also follow our submission guidelines to the T, and we have a database of all our poetry. So that's what's going on at Oddball Magazine. You can find us 7 days a week at oddballmagazine.com. Prof?
I think you should step it up to 8 days a week. You guys are kind of slacking.
Yeah, I know. Like 8 days a week.
You are.
Like the
Seriously.
Beatles. Yeah, I know. No rest for the wicked. Go ahead.
Well, that seems like an awful lot going on in Oddball Magazine this week. Thank you very much for keeping us all informed. How's your social life?
Social life is good. So I was in This Is My Brave over the summer. May 21st was my last show. And we filmed a documentary about This Is My Brave, and I was lucky to be part of it. And that's great. And so the new year is going to be big things with This Is My Brave. And then to top it off, I was asked to be in the second This Is My Brave that was in Boston this year. That was on November 16th. So that basically just happened. And I read a poem about the importance. The first poem I wrote was the importance of writing poems. The second poem I wrote was called A Patient Speaks Up, where it was basically talking about the language used in clinical settings. It was pretty cool, and that was a great show to be a part of that. And I got invited to speak at a convention in Dallas, where I'll be speaking in January. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great.
Thank you, Jake. And that's going on, and the rest is holidays and things like that, and doing all that kind of stuff, and yeah, that's really what's going on with me right now. What about you, Prof?
Oh, I mean I'm certainly not speaking in Dallas. Nothing nearly as exciting as that. We've been on a bit of a high.
You're banned in
What's
Dallas,
that?
Prof?
Dude, you're not supposed to talk about that on the air. This podcast might get shut down by YouTube if you talk about what happened in Dallas. We've been on a bit of a hiatus at JP Lyon Productions. We'll be coming back very fresh after the new year with a brand new format. But in my personal life, my 19-month-old son is going through a sleep regression, which is just terrible. If any parents out there happen to be listening, it really just doesn't, makes your life, really bad. So, I mean, that's okay. Other than that, I'm at a new job. We moved to our new house, and we've been slowly working on that, trying to get that ready for the winter so that it's not cold in all kinds of corners. But, it's going all right.
And now some news about the Oddball show. So, Prof, it's really great that you got all that stuff going on. And
no, it's very boring. But please make a good segue.
Is something that is very difficult to do, and I respect everything that you do, man, for your family and everything. So,
hey, thanks, buddy.
Fantastic. But yeah, look forward to more Oddball show in the new year, where we'll have reoccurring guests like John Punjatori, a flight paramedic who has a very interesting story. His name is James. He'll be on the show. Some people from This Is My Brave, some more poets, and some artists and musicians. So stay tuned, because things are going to get awesome in the new year. So that's what's going on at Oddball Show right now. But enough about us. What is going on with Jake Tringali?
We're swinging back. We're talking tonight with Jake Tringali. You can check out his book, Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse, on Amazon. We have the link up on the pertinent link section. And here in the second half, we want to talk about the show that's coming up near the end of December 23rd. Is that correct, Jake?
That's correct. December 23rd, Sunday. It's a Sunday matinee show at the Midway Cafe in Jamaica Plain here in Boston. The show's 4 to 8 p.m. or so. There'll be 5 different punk bands playing. This is an annual Christmas punk pizza show that happens every year. It's free pizza. It's like an $8 cover charge. It's really nothing to see 5 bands. My friend Slime Dog puts it on. He's a gentleman here that has written about the punk music scene for many decades. He's a musician himself. He plays guitar, and it's always a fun time. It's a group of us that get together for these shows, and it's a time for us to all come together and just really have a good time.
Very cool. So, what are the bands that will be playing at this show?
This particular show, there's a band called Neighborhood Shit that will be playing.
Nice.
The Revilers will be playing.
Revilers, yeah.
The Revilers, the Hangovers. One of my personal favorites is Sewer Buddies. Sewer Buddies is a G-rated punk band for kids. So they'll play songs about
That's
your butt is
awesome.
smelly and sock puppets and pizza is great, but it's fantastic. It is unbelievably great. And then there's a group. It's a husband and wife team called Coffin Salesman, and it actually no, it's not a husband and wife team. Coffin Salesman is just a different thing. So there's those 5 bands playing, and then I will be performing some poetry here and there amidst the sets.
Will you be performing stuff from Neon Apocalypse?
Some of the stuff will be from the book Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse. Some of it will be written specifically for this show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea what you're going to write for the show?
Yeah. There's a poem that I wrote recently called Other Times, and Other Times talks a lot about some of my musical influences and how sometimes when we wake up in the morning we might feel one way and other times we might feel another way. So it goes back and forth between sometimes and other times. Sometimes you feel high, sometimes other times you feel low. Sometimes you feel like you're sadly waltzing with Matilda. Other times you're caught in a mosh. Things like that. So there's a lot of it's like a 2-minute long poem, and there's a lot of musical influences and references in it. And I feel like this is the crowd for it.
Well, if you'd like to read us another poem, either that poem or a poem from Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse, we would love to hear another poem from Jake.
Yeah, I'd be glad.
Yes, you would.
I'd be glad to. This is a poem. It's called Nina Religion.
Okay.
And as all poems are, they're true stories in some manner or form. This one I wrote while I was in Los Angeles. Nina Religion. She supernaturally met me at a Peruvian restaurant in the middle of the day. It had rained earlier and the heavens had opened up to reveal a determined blue. The sun was a round disk, a white Eucharist of fire. Sitting across from me was the most beautiful angel. A waiter approached, I didn't care. Pure bracing water was served. I couldn't pay attention. She was talking nonchalantly and I was talking nonsense. But the sound was muffled and no words were recorded. She wore an ebony ankh and maybe a white blouse. I couldn't be sure now. Her skin glowed as if she had just finished dancing. I imagined her lithe frame gracing a ballet. She lifted her head and finally met my eyes. The ankh looked like it was burned or branded directly into her innocent neckline. Her smoky eyes looked up at me, and her lovely voice intoned, "The most intimate thing you can do to someone else is to cut them." The next 8 months were a blur. She's gone now. I am left with my scars. I am left with my knives. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
So let's talk a little bit about that poem. What is that poem about?
Sure. As I was living in Los Angeles, in Koreatown there was actually a religious store that was called Nina Religion.
Okay.
I found that a very interesting name for a store, Nina Religion, like little girl religion. And I never actually walked inside of it.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person by any means. I understand its purpose, and that's great. But it looks like they sold probably mainly candles that had the picture of Jesus on them.
Yeah.
It was like
I know those kind of stores.
Yeah, it was one of those stores in Los Angeles where you walk in, it's mainly dust all over the place, and it was clearly a family-owned store, Nina Religion. Now that was the impetus of the poem, and I started thinking, okay, what is it that excites me about that particular idea? And it is true, I did meet a person that while lying in bed, she had said the most intimate thing you can do to someone else is to cut them.
That's a great line.
Yeah, that kind of sticks in your head when you hear someone say that next to you.
Yeah, in bed. Dude. Yeah.
And so here's the thing. When you're dating or seeing or knowing someone that's a writer, there's got to be some sort of acceptability of knowing that some of the things you're going to say might end up into work. And so I spoke with her specifically about this poem, and I was like, hey, is it okay if I use this line? And she was like, yeah, okay, go for it. So that I kind of, obviously that's a killer line. So I built up the poem around that.
I once was on a bus, and this girl goes, "What are you looking at, you freak?" I wasn't even looking at her or anything. I don't even think she said that, but she said something like, "What are you looking at, you whatever." So I ended up writing a poem about her, like saying, "You don't piss off poets because they're just gonna immortalize you in a poem." So
that is true.
She had a bad attitude, and now she's immortalized in one of my notebooks.
I can tell you, actually, probably even before Oddball magazine, I wrote some poetry in college, and I read it today. It's not good, but I did write poetry in college specifically because I noticed every year that they would have a poetry contest, and this was at Rensselaer Polytech Institute, which was an engineering school. It's an engineering school, and not too much in the way of writing. So I noticed that every year that they would have this contest, and sometimes they wouldn't even give away the prizes because the poems weren't that good. They'd be like, first place is this, no one got second place, no one got third place. So like, all right, I'm going to submit a poem. And I threw in this poem that I wrote for this lady. And the poem went something like this. I just want to sleep with this girl, but I'm going to write a poem for her because I just want to sleep with her. And it actually worked. Like,
it actually worked.
Yeah, it actually worked. Like, yeah. And so I submitted that, got $100, and it was fantastic.
You got $100?
Yeah, right?
Oh, I thought you meant you slept with a girl.
No, that is the most amount of money I've gotten for any poetry or any writing I've ever done. It's been like $3 here, $2 here.
So I got published this year in a contest, and they took home my banking information, and then they're like, well, not banking information. They made me fill out an I-9, right? I'm like, oh, okay. Here comes something big. And I haven't received a dime from these people, so they just have my tax information. So I'm not going to like put them on blast or anything, but pay me, you know?
You should buy that Maserati now.
Yeah, right?
It's coming. The check's in the mail, dude.
I lease my Maseratis. I don't buy. I'm a smart guy.
I rent them for my music videos.
Okay, here's another fun little fact. So I was in Rhode Island at a beach, and this rapper was filming a rap song, with no sound whatsoever, and like these girls on the beach and stuff. I was like, this is the most awkward thing ever. I'm like walking by with my wife, and cut,
Did you guys stay and hang out?
No, it wasn't like a famous rapper or something. It was like, I mean, they were at like Horse Neck Beach, so that's a bad beach or anything. It's a great beach, but
yeah, you sound very judgy at both the rapper and the beach. I'm just asking if you hung out and you got in a rap video. That's all I'm saying. I think you missed an opportunity. That's all I'm saying.
I might have. I should have put down some heavy bars, and
you could have been a video vixen right there.
Right? I thought. See, Jake knows where I'm going. You didn't have to rap. Yeah. You didn't have to lay down any bars. You just had to, wave wildly in the background, shake your ass.
Like that Hammer video, Pumps in the Bump, like the same thing, right?
Just like that. Wow.
There was a lot of people who got paid to be in that. Wow, I really went on a tangent.
Here's what I want to make sure that this is noted for the record. That's our first MC Hammer reference here on the podcast. We've had a lot of different references. I won't mention the specific one, but MC Hammer has not made it on the podcast yet. So I'm proud of you.
MC Hammer is a great poet, and here's why: because he knows that hammer rhymes with hammer. So he would just repeat it over and over and over. That's fantastic. No one ever thought of that.
Yeah, he specifically picked his name to see, this will work very well.
There's a lot of words that
pick up the hammer, yo. hammer, hammer, pick up the hammer, hammer, yo.
See?
That is the
It's
entire
beautiful.
song.
If it was Boston, it'd be Hammer Kid.
Yeah.
And he would never have made it.
I don't know. Sometimes, if there's a little life lesson there, it's just be too legit to quit.
Just be you and be too legit to quit.
Cut it out. All right, enough.
Wow, that was pretty good. I like how you leaped there from too legit to quit to cut it out.
Well, it's the only hand references that I know.
Yeah. Like if we had been on video, that would have made a lot of sense. But I saw the connection there.
You did you did too legit to quit.
Yeah, from the too legit to quit hand signals to cut it out, like Dave Coulier.
Yeah, no, I know the too legit to quit, and then I Would Die for You is the other one from.
That's so good.
Is that a Prince song? I would die for you.
Yeah.
Is that a Prince song?
Signals.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a beautiful connection right there.
Okay, what is the hand signal for that?
I would die for you.
Die for you.
Yeah, you can figure it out.
Groundbreaking podcasting right here.
Great radio.
It's beautiful.
And now bringing the
it's very punk because it's like we don't give a fuck about you, listener. You don't understand what we're talking about, but I don't care that you don't. It's very punk.
And slap references, am I right? All right.
I'm going to do hand signals on the radio. I don't care.
I know. I would die for you. Anyway, we're still on the on air. Let's get back to Jake. Jake, thank you for reading that poem. Nina
Religion.
Nina Religion.
Religion.
It wasn't Nina Religion. Was it Nina Religion?
Yes.
Okay, Nina Religion. And thank you for explaining that. And where did we go? Let's get back. Prop, bring us back.
Surely, yeah. So we're listening to the Oddball Show right now with Jake Tringali. His new book, Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse, can be found on Amazon. And as does happen here on the Oddball Show Hour, when we're having a good time, we zip right on through it. And we're coming down to the end here. Not that there's any end here on the internet, but coming down to the end of our hour here. We want to get into a couple things here at the end. Jason's going to read a jagged thought, and we're going to do a list of 10, even though Jake does not know what that is. That's quite all right. I'm sure he's well prepared. We want to make sure that we have you all check our pertinent links. So we're going to get that show up. Let's mention again the details of the show in December. Jake, if you could you hip us to the details for that show?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. It's on December 23rd, Sunday, December 23rd, at the Midway Cafe in Boston, in Jamaica Plain specifically. It is the Thrash and Bang annual Christmas punk pizza party. It's from 4 to 8 p.m. I think tickets are like $5 or $8. $5, and you're going to see 5 different bands. You're going to have some poetry. There'll be free pizza, and it'll be a fun time.
That sounds awesome.
Well worth your bucks. So get on down. Midway Cafe is also a great place. They've been a long-standing location for all different kinds of music, including hip hop, which is not a common thing. Midway does and has for a long time done a lot of great hip hop. So both a great show, a great artist here on the show to support, and a great venue to support. So it's well worth your time on the 23rd.
And find Jake more of Jake's poetry at jakethepoet.wordpress.com. And you can buy Jake's book, Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse, on Amazon. Or is there any other way you can get the book?
Straight through Amazon. That's why.
Okay, straight through Amazon. So you can get Poetry for the Neon Apocalypse on Amazon, and you can check out all of Jake's poetry at jakethepoet.wordpress.com.
The last time I was at the Midway was for the book release party.
Okay.
And it was a lot of fun. I went to introduce the last band, and I didn't tell them any of this, but I went up on stage and I was like, "Hey guys, before you play, I'm just going to do one more poem, and then you guys can play." And it was Mint Green, which is one of the fantastic indie bands here in Boston.
Okay.
And I went up and I started doing a poem called "My Tribute to Middle Fingers High Up in the Air."
That's a great name.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a participatory poem in which I train people how to become professionals at putting their middle fingers high up in the air. And I got everyone ready, and it's like a 2-minute poem. And 90 seconds in, I said, okay, this poem is going to be continued in just a little bit. And I went from the stage, through the crowd, up on top of the bar, and continued the poem on top of the bar.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
The last barman poets.
That's some poetry, man.
And at that point, I was like, okay, you can all participate at this point. And there were like 40 people there. And I was like, okay, so take all that energy that I've given you, that we've talked about, take all of that fury, and from the ground up to the sky, we're going to take all of that. We're going to raise your arms. And I had everyone raise their arms up, raise their hands, raise their middle fingers, and leave their middle fingers exposed and rock that pose. And so I have 80 middle fingers pointed up to me while I'm on top of the bar. And it was one of the best moments of my life. It was fantastic.
I want that's one of the most gangster lines we've had on the podcast, by the way. So thank you very much. Leave those middle fingers exposed and rock that pose.
Very nice.
Thank you very much, Jake. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So now we are coming down to the end of the hour, but I can't leave Jake without doing the list of 10.
Yeah, I think that would probably be wise, right? You know, we don't want to go too many shows without a list of 10, and obviously people need some insight into Jake's personal list of 10.
Plus, Jake has a lot to talk about, and I think the list of 10 would be right up his alley.
I'm very
all right. So, Jake Tringali, though you have no idea what's coming, are you ready for the list of 10?
The list of 10.
Now
and a half.
Now I.
So, list of 10 is a little kind of personality quiz based on James Lipton's list of 10 from inside the Action Studio, but he stole it from a French show called Apostrophe, and that is also based on the Proust questionnaire, I'm pretty sure. So it's a long tradition of stealing this list of 10, and we've made it into our own here at the podcast. So let's get it on.
I'm so happy right now.
Jake.
10
and a half. Jake, number 1. What time and place would you like to be, if not here and now?
The time and place I'd like to be, if not here and now, I would love to have been in Los Angeles around 1977, 1978, as the punk scene was just starting. Man, I was listening to the music of the Bags and Catholic Discipline and 45 Grave and the Germs and all of that, and it just seemed like an amazing time. I would have liked to have been there.
You know, one of my favorite things about number 1 is and I think it's just really cool, is that a lot of people reference their favorite musical time. Now, especially for some of us who are a little bit younger. We've had some older guests, but like people who weren't able to live through their favorite musical era. You know, like I love classic rock. I love the Grateful Dead. If I was able to be in San Fran in 1972, that would be a pretty ill time. And I like that a lot of people's answers reference, that's their frame of reference.
Yeah, and I always I wonder if some point in the future someone's going to say, I would have liked to have been in Boston in 2018, 2017. Because we have a really good music scene here. I really, really enjoy it, and I wouldn't give it up for anything. But you asked the question.
Yeah, no, I think that's an absolutely great addendum to that too, because I think the same thing about Boston hip hop. That if in 10 years the burgeoning, bubbling scene that I feel for Boston hip hop suddenly explodes, there'll be a lot of people that are thinking the same way. That I wish I could have been there when so and so was breaking through and playing in the Middle East, and then all of a sudden became a national act. And I think that's
absolutely
a pretty ill way to look at time.
Right on.
All right, so number 2.
Ooh.
What is the greatest advice you've ever received?
One of the most. I'll bring up something that's recent. In writing some of my poetry and sharing it with some of the people in the punk scene, my friend Slime Dog, who writes here for the punk scene and is hosting the show on December 23rd, he recommended one thing to me in writing, and he said, write like you're being punched in the face.
Oh, that's so good. Right, so like good. You're being punched in the face.
The line itself feels like you're being punched in the face. And so just like over and over, just like don't let yourself get complacent. Keep it fresh. Keep gasping for air. I mean, that's kind of what we got to do.
I think that is so boiled down and powerful that that's exactly what you need to do. Don't ever relent. Don't ever let yourself get lazy or or find a reason not to write.
Yeah, there's no cheating. There's no cheating here.
There's no cheating. Right? Right, like you're being punched in the face. I just had to write it down. I keep a little notepad as we're going through the show. I had to make sure I wrote that one down correctly.
I would be very glad
to underlines and shit.
Dog to one of these days. Yes.
3.
Actually, before we get to 3, we talked a little bit in the pre-show about Slime Dog, which is first of all, an awesome name, and B, second of all, you mentioned that he's we can't talk about it right now. We get totally sidetracked, but he's a music writer about the punk scene, which is one of my favorite ways to write, and one of my I wish that I could be a good music writer. I read sometimes you read pretentious music writing and you're like, all right, I don't really give a shit about your references and shit. But you read good music writing and you're like, wow, you are very smart, and not just because you can write well, but because your depth of knowledge, which informs what you're writing about, is I don't know, is far beyond where I'm at. And I think that all the time. So Slime Dog will definitely, when Jake, when you come back for the second volume of this conversation, we'll have to talk about Slime Dog and about music writing.
Absolutely. Bring on Slime Dog. We'll talk to him. 3.
Right. So Jake, number 3.
Yes.
What would your superpower be?
My superpower, and I think I already have it actually. My superpower is this: when I fall asleep, my ears plug up just randomly with earwax, and I can't hear anything. I think this is the next. No, stop laughing. I think this is the.
No, it's beautiful.
This is the next human evolution. I feel like people, we're in comfortable homes. We're not outside. Bears aren't going to attack us. So how else are you going to fall asleep? Your ears are going to plug up within 5 minutes of you hitting a pillow. And then, bam, you're asleep. That's my superhero power.
You're going to have the most peaceful, restful sleep. Your body's just it's like hibernation, but just in your ears.
All of my friends tell me they have a hard time sleeping. I feel bad for them. Maybe someday they can earn, I don't know, whatever stripes I've gotten.
I was going to say, someday they'll reach your stage of evolution, but they probably won't. They may not be that advanced.
I'm pretty much an X-Men.
Pretty much. Wouldn't that be a hell of a mutation? If someday you're just I have an overwhelming amount of earwax, but not in a gross way, only when it's useful. Isn't that awesome?
Just when I wake up in the morning, I can hear perfectly. Bam, it's done. It's great. It's fantastic.
And your friend with wings just soars up above you. He's like, yeah, fuck off, dude.
He's like, yeah,
so good.
Earwax, but I got these adamantium claws that can go through your face. I mean, that'd be cool too. Yeah.
I won't get into a Jason type personal story right now, but I did have a really recent event with earwax that was 2 weeks long, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the dry heat in my new house that it knocked me sideways. I had to go to the urgent care a couple times, and some lady who was from some sci-fi novel was drilling into me with this long pointy thing. It was terrible, and it didn't really help. Eventually, I just had to blow them out myself. I was trying to destroy my own eardrums from the inside. Ears are crazy shit. I guess that's the point of my story.
Wow, I learned a little about Professor today.
Yeah, but you know what? I guess the real point was not that ears are crazy shit. That I wish I had Jake's superpower rather than just getting clogged up and then having to walk around like that during the day. That's only half the shit, and that's just the gross part. Really, it needs to evaporate on its own. In the morning when you wake up, so that you can hear like a normal person. So, Jake, big ups to you.
Thank you,
Jake. 4. Biggie or Tupac?
Ooh.
I'll be honest, I never really listened to either of them.
Neither.
Okay, that's okay.
I gotta say that.
What time frame was that? Give me a time frame.
That's the 90s. That's the heart of 90s hip hop.
All right, so 90s, I was probably, God, just graduating, so I was probably listening to pre-grunge at that point.
Pre-grunge.
Pre-grunge.
Yeah.
Were you a grunge guy? Were you a flannel around the waist listening to Pearl Jam guy?
Dude, that's exactly what I thought of first when I thought of grunge was the.
Given my age, yes.
On the way.
I really didn't have a choice. Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. I saw Soundgarden live. Nirvana.
Nice.
Absolutely. Like if I took out a guitar and played Nirvana, there would be 3 or 4 women around me. So it's like, yeah, I can play Nirvana.
Yeah. Oh, that is the beautiful thing about a guitar.
I picked up a guitar when I was 13 years of age when I first discovered women.
And well done for you, sir.
Yes.
Way to be like, all right, I understand how this is going to work now, rather than like, oh, you know what, I just don't want to practice. Dude, just pick the thing up. Yeah. Put in the work. It'll be worth it.
I like punk guitar, so you don't even have to be like virtuoso at it.
Yeah, I guess you're playing Nirvana. You're playing, all power chords. Just see what I can do.
If I have no bone. Remember that?
Yep. I remember. I was there.
All right. Well, that's another quote from another movie. Continue.
Number 5.
5.
Jake, who is your favorite person?
Who is my favorite person? My favorite person. Oh my. My favorite person in the world is my best friend Joe Problems. She was my partner for many years, and she is a crazy person. She is a physicist, a punk rocker, and she takes shit from no one.
Right on.
Yeah. She and I host parties every year. We host a Halloween party. We host a Christmas party. And we have an eclectic group of friends from the punk scene, from physics, from Boston. We have our misfits that we all gather together, and we have a great time.
Your misfits.
Yes, exactly. We have parties that don't just have food and beverage. We have puzzles. We have ciphers. We have hidden contests. This particular party that's coming up soon in December, we're going to have, once again, another puzzle party where people have to try and find some robots. The robots are going to fight each other. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things going on.
I got to come hang out with the misfits. That sounds like a good time.
I got to be invited to this party. It looks pretty good. 6.
6.
6.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's so weird. I have a little button under my thumb that I press when I want to like stop, breathing into the mic and such when other people are talking. I just pressed it at the opposite time. I pressed it like twice, and I started talking just to myself. Number 6. What is your quest?
What is my quest? These are not questions that James Lipton asked, by the way.
No, I step it up a little bit.
These are brilliant. I like it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, sir.
My quest right now is, there's 2 answers to that. The short term, it's just living the fuck out of life. I am trying
living the fuck out of life.
I am trying to squeeze every inch, every second, everything I can out of it. I don't care what I do to my body. I don't care if I get bruised or tired or whatever. I just want to keep squeezing it out. And that's the short term. That's the short term. The short term is to kind of live as much as I can here in Boston and elsewhere. The long term, I have a couple of long cons going on, but I can't really talk about them.
Well, of course not. That would be an unsuccessful con if you let untrusting people in on it.
I feel like everyone should have a long con. I don't know why people don't do this. There's plenty of time during the short term for you to think about things to do in the long term, like things that will pay off, whether it's a joke, whether it's some sort of financial gain, something that could happen 5 years, 10 years from now that you can actually do. There's a couple of things that are in the hopper for me. And so they're paying out right now, but there are some that will pay out 5-10 years from now.
I really like that philosophy. Well, like, why doesn't everybody have a long con? That's tight, because you're absolutely right. There is time. There's always time to be doing something in the background and on the back burner. I like that philosophy.
Yeah, poetry is one of them, frankly, because so you didn't ask the question, but when I write, I usually write. Sorry, backing up a step, I run restaurants and bars, and there are times at restaurant or bars where nothing is going on. Tuesday night from 10 p.m. to midnight, there's nothing going on. There's a couple of regulars. They're professional drinkers. They know what they're doing, so you just leave them be. But I have 2-3 hours where I can not work on a schedule, not work on ordering, and just do some writing. And so those kind of things add up. And, I was able to make a book out of it. Maybe I'll be able to make an NEA grant out of it. Those are the types of things that kind of interest me.
It's like the in-between spaces, which is something we didn't get to talk about. Like, I was going to use it as a jump-off point. I think it's called Recanted. Is that the one about the extra letters in the alphabet?
Absolutely, it is.
So I we'll have to say this again for show number 2, but I really like your interest in like the spaces between, or the ignored spaces, and I think that relates into what you're talking about. There are always like the pennies of time, like the little spots that you would ignore, and I'm a server and a bartender too, so yeah, there are always those 10 minutes, those 20 minutes that you're literally standing around doing nothing, and I keep a notepad in my back pocket all the time where half of my rhymes are written in between my 1 or 2 tables in the middle of the afternoon, or whatever it ends up being.
That's fantastic. And we need to hang out, first of all.
Right on.
I can tell you exactly where that poem, in the next broadcast, I can tell you exactly where that poem was written, which restaurant, and with which person it was written with. Yes.
Isn't that funny how that locks in for you? Like, even if the subject matter isn't related at all, obviously, to like the people that you happen to be standing around. Like, there are certain bars of some of my verses. I'm like, I can remember standing in, I've worked in several restaurants since then, but like this restaurant at this time, like next to this table, like the room's empty, but I'm walking around, like my brain is somewhere else. And it's those little in between times that I think kind of make up some of those long cons.
Right. So I'm curious for both of you, and this is question 6.5.
Yeah.
When you write items, do you keep author's notes for yourself?
I have a like certain kind of system that makes that happen. So like, I never want to. It's a good question. So I write sometimes in my notebook and sometimes on a computer. But when I'm writing on a computer and I edit, I don't like to not remember where I was when I started. Like, I don't like to just go back and erase it and put the new shit over, because then you won't remember the process of how you got from that thing to that thing. So I got a little system of symbols that work for me to be able to remember, this is the old version, this is the new version. But yeah, I get little author's notes like that, but nothing like, I'm not writing my own margins. But I always want to remember where I started.
As for me, I kind of lose my memory when I after writing something. I've written thousands of poems, I would have to say, and I can remember maybe where I've written 1 or 2 of them. I wouldn't say thousands, maybe 1,000. Maybe 1,000 poems.
You've probably written close to 1,000 Jagged Thoughts by now.
Yeah, I have a lot of notebooks, but a lot of my poetry was written on a train.
Right.
My new book, Train of Thought, that I'm working on right now, that is still pending publication, was all written on the train. So I can remember very, very, writing every one of those poems. And it's because most of them were anxiety induced at the time. So my poetry for me has always been something to occupy myself, to figure things out, to express myself, and if it depends, you could tell if my poetry was becoming more intense depending on how late of the day it was, if my headphones died, these kind of things. I mean, I would be literally writing, not for dear life, but I definitely that was the main thing I did, writing on the train. So did I take do I take author notes? No, but I can remember where at least the poems in my notebooks, I know where they're written. and I take some. I mean, with my iPhone, I write poems once in a while. I have I write poems on my iPhone. I write poems on the computer. I write poems at work. I write poems in a notebook. But back in the day when I was commuting from place to place, I would write in notebooks from front to finish, which I really, I love writing in a notebook. I will never get sick of writing in a notebook. So that's basically where I wrote my poetry, on the train and on trips and stuff. So yeah, I mean, not really author's notes, I would say, but you know what I mean?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes. Brilliant.
8, 7. Prof?
It's coming.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry.
There it is again.
Jake, you asked about author's notes. Yeah, I pressed the button. Author's notes, why did you ask about that, Jake?
Yeah, that's a question. 6.5.
I certainly definitely write author's notes when I am writing my own poetry. And I it's not from a vanity point of view. It's just that I know my memory will fail. I know it.
Yeah.
Absolutely know it.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather be safe and keep these kind of keep tracks of who I was with, where I was at, and I'll probably remember it. And frankly, just in the process of writing it down, my brain will capture it.
That's great. That's I mean, I love everybody's process. I mean, your process is different from my process, which is different from other poets' processes, and I think that's incredible. Technique is always, you know what I mean? Like when technique is different from another person's technique, because some people just scribble down poetry and not, but it sounds like you have a real, you want to document the moment where you're at, all that kind of stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it's very important to me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so list of 10, number 7.
7!
Jake, fill in the blank. All you need is blank.
All you need is love is such a banal song.
That's why it's like half people's instincts to be like, love, is that the right answer? And I'm like, well, no. What is the essential component for you?
That's the right answer. Do I get $100?
From Jason, you certainly do.
Is it a Western?
As soon as he gets his check from his last payment.
I have no idea what that's.
I'm going to leave the word adventure out there just for fun.
Adventure, that's a good one.
All you need is
I have to note that I have liked your use of I go on adventures at night and I adventure. I like that spirit.
Adventure is interesting because there's a risk of failing.
Yes, there is.
It could end up very horribly. You could end up falling off of a cliff in Iceland. You could, there's lots of things that could happen. But
that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, that's what makes it exciting. It could be completely boring.
Right.
But generally it isn't.
That's the difference between adventure and vacation. That I like the sense of adventure.
Yeah, that's the Anthony Bourdain thing. That's go out and be an adventurer. Don't be a tourist.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain. Yeah. All right, so number 8, rock, paper, or scissors.
Rock, paper, or scissors. For fun, rock. I like rock and roll. Sure, why not?
Rock. I want to rock.
I'm a rock star. What are you gonna do?
Right on. What are you gonna do about it? Number 9. What do you want to be when you grow up?
When I was asked that question as a very small child of 6 or 7 or 8 years old by my grandfather, the answer I gave was a bachelor.
Yeah, a bachelor.
Isn't that funny? That's
awesome.
Pretty funny.
Who taught you that concept? Like I
don't know. I have no idea. But what? Maybe. No, even at that age, probably not even like Playboy. Like, like Hugh Hefner. Like the only person I could think of that would have been a bachelor at that point might have been Hugh Hefner. I'm not exactly
I want to be a
sure.
playboy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a single guy in Boston, so I'm having a good time.
So I have achieved my goal.
Huzzah!
And number 10, the only one I kept from James Lipton, although I did think about keeping his curse word one, it's like one of the most telling identity concept kind of ones, which I just love. I really like James Lipton, by the way. Just a weird side note. I think he's a great interviewer. There are quite a few people who are underrated interviewers, and I think James Lipton is certainly one of them. He asks good questions. But the only one I kept from James Lipton, number 10, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear St. Peter say when you reach the pearly gates?
If heaven exists, what would I like to hear upon the pearly gates? Fucking brilliant.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Really?
I think I'd like to hear that. I don't know why it's English. I don't know why it's British, but yeah, I think that's what I'd like to hear.
That's a very good one. Jake Tringali, you have survived the list of 10.
The list of 10.
And I forgot we threw in our own half one, but Jason has been trying to add in the last month or so a half question about new Kanye or old Kanye.
Yeah, once again, didn't really listen to him very much.
Wasn't there for either era.
I mean, are you going to ask me about early DRI or late DRI, early Clash or late Clash?
Early Clash or late Clash would have been a good discussion.
I would go with, that's a good one because you got Sandinista as a late Clash, but
I mean, let's talk about the 101ers. Let's do it.
Or staying power of Bowie, I think would have been an interesting conversation as well. I love Bowie in his like singularness. There's nobody quite like him.
He really did evolve with all of his music. Even like when he was afraid of Americans, he sounded like Nine Inch Nails. So like wow, like.
And when I play Black Star right now, even just the younger people, the people that are like in their 20s and 30s, they're like, this is great.
Black Star is incredible.
Yeah.
So big ups, David Bowie.
And that has been the list of 10 with Jake Tringali. The list of 10.
Well, as does happen when we're having a good time here in the Oddball Show, it zips right by us. In fact, it's zipped right by us and gone an extra half hour, which is excellent. That extra half hour of wonderful, brilliant content for you patient listeners. We thank you very much for tuning into the Oddball Show, this and every episode. You can find us at jplineproductions.com and oddballmagazine.com. Please come follow us on our social medias at Oddball Magazine, at Man the Storm, at Dr. Prof Esquire, and at JP Lime on both Instagram and Twitter.
And when you can, leave us a review on iTunes and find us on Stitcher as well. We're also on Stitcher and iTunes, and stay tuned for more platforms.
Right on. Well, Jake, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's really been a good time.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Jake.
So all of our links will be up all of Jake's links will be up in our pertinent link section. Please go and check him out. And please, if you happen to be in Boston, happen to be in JP, go check out the show the 23rd. Well worth your $8 to see 5 shows and a brilliant poet. And go get his book on Amazon in both paperback and or Kindle edition. I'm pretty sure, by the way, Amazon's part of their holiday season is running a free trial on Kindle. So you know what you could do? You could just go try it for free, and Jake still gets paid, and everybody wins. Yeah. So go make that happen. It's been a great time here on the Oddball Show. My name is Prof, and Jason, you going to take us out with a jagged thought?
I am. Yes, I am. And Jake, thank you for being on the show. I think it was a really great discussion, and really enjoy your book, and best wishes to you in the future.
Thank you. Rock the fuck on.
Thanks, bro.
Rock the fuck on. Fucking brilliant.
All right, so this is my poem, Jagged Thought 251. Fell asleep listening to Bad Brains. Jagged Thought 251. Fell asleep listening to Bad Brains. In my dream, I rode a spaceship, dub flying high. Listen to me, man, I got a story to tell. Here it is. Here's one for the kids, one for the movement, whatever that is, one for the ages, one to remember for days, one for the enlightened, one for the saved, one more to grow on, one to fill up to the hilt, till knowledge leaks out like blood from the skin, or something that you want to remember you're stricken to forget, no less forgive. This is another one, in the gutter one, a minor threat, a fugazi. This is the love letter you meant to send when no one knew you, when you were free from apathy and every other emotion. This is the exception to the rule. This is old school. This is a photograph. This is science. This is math. This is an autograph on a baseball bat. This love right here is for the one who wants to move. I fell asleep listening to Bad Brains. When I awoke, I wrote this poem. Take me, leave me. I am a rocket launcher, and breaking rules is the only rule. And that has been my Jagged Thought of the week. It was Jagged Thought 251, fell asleep listening to Bad Brains. And, this has been the Oddball Show. Thanks again, Jake, for being on the program.
Thank you. I am also a rocket launcher.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, you are. And Prof, have a great one, you know?
Thanks, buddy. I will do that.
All right. And we'll see you all on the flip side. Take care, guys. Peace out.
This is the Oddball Show, a podcasting collaboration from JP Line Productions and Oddball Magazine.